What's going on YouTube? Welcome to another live oil painting session. So we got a question from Jonas. You wrote, when you see a yellowish skin tone like that on a Rembrandt, should one try to copy the same kind of color? Good question. I'm using my iPad as my reference, and the color is a little different on my iPad versus my computer screen. So I would suggest anytime it looks really yellowish, like on my iPad it looks extremely yellow, on my laptop it looks less yellow, so my laptop has better color than my iPad. So anytime you see like an extreme yellowish color, it's usually a screen. If it's not the screen, then it could be the painting has genuinely has that color. And if that is the case, just try to replicate it, even though it could be yellowing of the varnish over the years. Just go ahead and paint it as you see it, because editing is always going to be more challenging in the learning process than painting it as you see it. It being pot, I'm glad you like the new schedule. So yeah, let me know everyone. The schedule is now going to be later on in the evenings for the time being. 6:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Mondays and Wednesdays. So let me know what you think. So this is actually paint on my palette, as you see here, that is wet. So I'll be able to just use it as it is. Let me adjust the light sensitivity a little bit for you so you can see what we're gonna do. And we can just get started with painting now. Hey Ellen, welcome, welcome. So I'm gonna need to add a little bit more color onto my palette. So I just put it in the freezer, as you can see here. Cobra, I'm using Cobra. That's what I tend to use. And I pre-mix my browns, so my brown and my green, excuse me, I pre-mix my brown and my green. So I buy yellow, blue, and red, just 3 colors, and white. I pre-mix them to make whatever other colors I want. So for example, you want to see how I get my brown? I'll show you how I get my brown. I need to recharge it anyway as I drop some brushes. So I add kind of like 50-50 of the blue, or sorry, of the yellow and the red. And I add just a tad bit more of the blue so that it can get really dark. A teapoo. Alright, so I'll just mix it with the palette knife. Now I suggest you don't do this on a vertical palette. I actually don't suggest you use a vertical palette. See how it's, first it goes green and then the red takes effect, and then it's like, alright, I guess we're gonna go brown. So now it's starting to get brownish, kind of like a burnt umber or greenish burnt umber. It's a greenish brown, and of course I can make it different. It looks black on the screen. If I do this, spread it apart there, you can see that it's somewhat brownish. So let's just add some more red to it, just so it's a little bit more brown. Like I said, I make my own colors out of the primaries. Orange is really simple, just red and yellow. If I want, I can make a variety of different colors. But that should be good for now. So with the painting, let's check how dry it is. Remember, we started this just 2 days ago on Monday. And it is, you can hear it hopefully, it's touch dry. So no need for alkyds, no need for anything special. It just decides to go and dry on me, which is good. You'll notice that it dried true. It dried true in the sense, excuse me, it dried true in the sense that these colors didn't sink in. Now this is still a tad bit almost gooey, but the Cobras allow you to work into them as they're in that in-between dry state, as opposed to traditional, which usually won't let you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up something dark, and let's say that my darks are going to live somewhere over here. And feel free to ask any art related questions, or you can go ahead and ask what my favorite pizza is, or whatever. you want to ask any kind of nice live stream friendly questions would definitely help the stream. So I'm going to go in and adjust this shape. I noticed it was a little bit wide. So to make a precise mark like that, sometimes I'll use a maul stick, other times I can do this. I can hold on to the edge. This is actually really precise stuff, trying to draw it, and I'm not saying I'm gonna get it right at first attempt, but I'm pushing across it to try to get the shape correct. Hand grid. Alright, so this plane is a little more straight. So this part, so the second layer, what I want you to get out of this is going to be the pace changes a little bit. So not a lot of stuff happens in a long period of time, which is why I encourage any kind of questions that you have for me, art related, or you can ask me pool related questions or dog training related questions, as I'm getting into that kind of stuff too. But anyway, not a lot's going to happen for a long period of time. I'm going to shrink his eyes. Definitely his eyes were a little bit big. He's a little cartoonish looking still. The start was quite loose. A little bit more along the just covering the canvas side of things last time. I'm not using any medium. I'm just using the paint on its own. And whenever I need to cover like a broad area of some sort, I'll thin out the paint, but just with water. Now I'm very careful with this little section here, because this is going to be the most important area for me to focus on, because it was the first thing that got kind of my attention. Hey Fran, how do you blend skin tones? You mean how do you get the transition of certain skin tones? So for example, like this transition from like here to here, the structure of the cheekbone, the side plane of the nose and all that stuff. Or say in like a more youthful model, when it's a little bit more flat, this kind of like gentle gradation. What it takes is planes. Planes are just two-dimensional flat sheets of anything really. Like you can consider this panel to be a plane in space. Every plane has an angle with respect to the light, and depending on that angle with respect to the light, it will have a certain value. Value meaning how light or how dark something is. So this one is still more plane oriented, very very flat, so this will eventually get to that kind of chop type look, even though Rembrandt didn't really put that many planes. So one plane here, another plane there. You can see the difference between values, difference between one value here, one value there. And what you'll see me do in a little bit is I'm going to actually organize my skin tones on the palette, kind of like a string of colors. And you know what, we'll just do that now. Now that I mention that, let's go ahead and do that. This will help you a lot in keeping balance and keeping organization on your palette. So I'm going to use, say, like I have an orangey gray, and I'm mixing directly on top of the colors that were already on the palette. But you can make this color quite simply with orange, ultramarine blue, and white. Ultramarine blue. Blue and orange will neutralize themselves and create a kind of like dulled out skin tone. And you can make it as light or as dark as you want, or as orange or as pink as you want. And you can test it out. So let's test this out over here. And that's pretty close. I don't really have an issue with it. So let's just let that be that color. And now I'm just gonna make some darker versions of it. Now, when it comes to naturalistic painting, in the way that I was taught, every plane change is a color change. But when you're doing a master study like this, the 17th century Rembrandt kind of thing, every plane change is pretty much just a value change, and the color, the hue variation is kept at a minimum. That's just the way that it is with these studies. So don't overthink it. This is a darker version of this. This is a plane change on the palette that would exist somewhere on this painting, and you can almost pick an area on the painting where it would be. So if I were to get a different brush, for example, this brush is for this, right, and this brush is for this, I can pretty much use both of them at the same time if I want to. So light plane would be here, and darker plane would be here. Pretty much all in one swoop there. You see I have a difference between a lighter plane and a darker plane, which will eventually start to create more curvature onto the face. Curvature is what you're after. Dimension is what you're after. And this is it. This is the answer to your question, Fran, right here. Between these two things here, values and the plane changes being described within the values. That's the answer that you're looking there for. Just multiplied by many different times. So from Julie, what brand of brushes and why? Thank you so much for these questions, everyone. I really do encourage you to ask as many questions as possible. It helps with the stream. It helps people know that I exist, that I'm making videos about painting. So why brushes? You've seen me use the same kind of brushes, these green ones, for a long time. They last a really long time, and I still have some brushes that I haven't even used yet that I bought a couple years ago, and they're all the same brand, Silverbrush, with the exception of some other ones, but these are all Silverbrush brands, and I know other people like to use Rosemary. There's nothing wrong with Rosemary or any of the other brands. I just like using Silverbrush. I like to use Filbert's and Filbert bristle brushes. I typically have a range between a size 4 extra long Filbert and a size 2 extra long Filbert. And by the way, the links to all that stuff is in the description box of the video. As always, so if you do decide to purchase any of the materials that I use from Amazon, the links are in the description box. I will get a small reward for that, so that'd be pretty cool. So this is my little gradation here, as you can see, stretching from light all the way to dark, light all the way to dark. And if you can keep that organization on your palette as you're painting, yes, things are going to change a little bit, of course, but it's easier. And the second part of the question, why do I like to use these brushes? I like to use these brushes because I like the color green, and I think green and gold go really well together. No, I'm just kidding. I like to use these brushes because they can hold a lot of paint and still apply a nice soft touch. Whereas some other, say like cheaper brands of brushes, mainly like an off-brand like Artist Loft or something, say like you get an Artist Loft bristle brush, and in the beginning, sure, it'll pick up a nice amount of paint, but over time it will start to shovel the paint. This is what I mean by shovel the paint. See how I went and I have to really dig into it to shovel the paint, and that's what cheaper brushes will do. But it's not gonna make it or break it, everyone. Like, if you have cheaper paints, if you have cheaper brushes, if you have cheaper materials in general, man, you can make a Rembrandt with crayons if you want to, on like really cheap paper. It doesn't matter. I mean, the materials are going to help you. Don't get me wrong. They'll help you. They'll make it easier for you. But if you have the knowledge, if you give Rembrandt a box of crayons and you give someone, I don't know, you give me a box of crayons, Rembrandt will probably destroy me. He'll be able to draw things that I just wouldn't be able to fathom. Um, so it plays a role in making it easier for you to learn. That's what higher quality materials do for you. Makes it easier. And there's also more consistency to higher quality materials. There's more consistency, less variability between one paintbrush and the other as a whole. And I'm speaking just general. But like I said, one value across from another value. And the painting is currently in its ugliest form. It's in the what do I call it? What do I call this? The awkward stage. So what I need to do is just continue to, every time I see something that looks a little bit off, a little bit different, like the eyes and the nose, that's why I'm working on that now, seeing them a little bit off, then I will change them. And little by little, as I apply these changes, I'll basically be able to turn it into the image that I'm observing. And when it comes to the brushes, I like to have a bunch of different brushes available to me, so that like for example, right now I'm switching from a dark greenish, from the skin color to a dark greenish, because I'm gonna start to move the angle of the mouth a little bit more and adjust the facial hair at the same time. Let's push the orange on this a little bit. Yeah, so I can have different sections on the palette. So for example, next to the lights here, I'll just have kind of like a more like a reddish orangey section on the palette. This is why I encourage you to have a larger palette. This is a larger palette, but this is only a section of a larger palette. My larger palette consists of it is a handheld plexiglass palette. So I'm only using this small space just so it fits in the camera shot. And this dark, I can add a reddish section to it as well. adjusting the shape for the lip a little bit. I'm adding, as I continue to add, it's a push and pull. I can continue to add stuff, more information to it, and evaluate the shapes around it. I'm not necessarily trying to copy it, and I'm aware it's still a little bit off. So I'm at this point kind of exploring. So I believe that the nose and the mouth both need adjusting. But I'm not trying to copy the Rembrandt either. So there's a fine line to walk, a fine balance, almost like tightrope walking. If it goes too far in one direction, I'm gonna fall off, and if I don't have a safety thing, I'm a goner. So, for example, it can get too abstract, and it could get too photographic, or in this case, too similar to the Rembrandt. It would be beneficial for it to not get too abstract. So, for example, things like the mouth, like I said, adjusting little things like that is going to be better for me, even though it's going to require more patience. Like, obviously, I know that needs to lift, and I wasn't lifting it up before. The size 2 filbert size is really useful for this part of the painting, especially for like little head studies like this. Most head studies are going to be about the size of your hand, so it's easier to navigate. So I'm going to move the mouth up yet again. I'm moving the upper lip up. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. But at least I'm moving shapes instead of moving lines. And there's color to help me see things that need to be corrected. So it makes it a lot easier and more efficient, but more difficult when it comes to paint handling. So it's a push and pull. You sacrifice a little bit of paint handling. You complicate the paint handling, but you make it easier to maneuver the shapes. So I have about 4 brushes here. I got a dark, a light, a middle brush, and then I guess a greenish brush. So I'm gonna ask everyone a question. And I typically tend to ask the same questions all the time, so you'll probably be prepared with your answer. So my question for everyone is going to be, at least the first question, is going to be, what is your favorite paint tube color? Your favorite paint tube color. And if you asked me last year or 2 years ago, even 3 years ago, I would have given you a really different answer. And today, I mean, at least in recent times, I've only been using three colors anyway, so I don't have that many options. So I'd say that my favorite is probably going out of my three color palette right now is going to be Pyrrole Red. I like how close to cadmium red light it is that I'm pointing at it. It's quite close to cadmium red light in terms of its saturation in straight out of the tube form, and it doesn't overpower. It's a semi-transparent red, so it doesn't overpower the other colors, and it's also not a cadmium, so I don't have to worry about having cadmiums all over the place. I can hear crickets. Does anyone have a favorite paint tube? Does somebody prefer their transparent mummy? Do they prefer yellow ochre light? Actually, of all the earth yellows, I think my favorite back in the day was yellow ochre light by Winsor Newton. That was a nice yellow. It wasn't as dark as obviously given the name light. It wasn't as dark as all the other ones. So it was easier to add it to the lights. Not that that mattered that much. It could work the same as the other yellow ochres. And now with this, I could make my own yellow ochre, so it doesn't even matter anymore. Like this right here. Check that out. That's my own yellow ochre already. Just kidding. It probably could get closer to yellow ochre, but I don't want straight yellow ochre anyway. Cinnabar Green. Cool. I haven't used that one in a long time. That's made to simulate Cinnabar Green, which I think was a Mercury Green back in the day, and I think the original version of it's still available on like Rublev. So I mixed up a sort of almost like sap green, light-ish looking green, which I think is actually off the camera. Should probably move the camera a little bit. There we go. So you can see my green, slightly lighter version of like a sap green. So I typically avoid trying to do alla primas or like all-in-one sitting paintings, but I can, like last time, start a painting as if I were to finish it the same day, with that kind of freedom and that kind of directness, I guess, for lack of better terms, and come back to it and continue with the same, let's say, pace. Even though it slows down, doesn't mean that I'm slowing down how much the brush is moving. It's just as the brush is moving, the information that's being added is a little bit more complicated, so it takes more than a couple tries to get the right value, the right color down, the right shape. And now I'm going to switch to some Sable brushes. Sable brushes allow me to apply more kind of like small finesse shapes, smaller shapes with more control. no medium, not even a drop of water really, other than cleaning off a brush here and there. Thanks, Raycott. So I'm gonna check on my dog. You probably hear him. I don't know why he's barking. In the meantime, anybody have their favorites painted tube color that they're interested in? Is it vermilion? Is it Naples yellow? What's going on with him? What's wrong with him? Where's his And yes, another advantage to Cobra or any water mixable is you can have your Shiba Inu with you while you're painting, and you won't have to worry about anything in terms of the toxicity of the air quality and all that stuff. So let's see if I can get him to chill, bro, chill. All right. So what was I saying? Your favorite paint tube? In the past, I think my favorite was probably lead tin yellow. Back when I had the traditional colors, lead tin yellow was probably one of my favorites. And I could mix up a lead tin yellow looking color if I wanted to with the 3 colors that I'm using. Hey Alan, we got Hugo says hi. He's currently saying, well, I'm bored. He's bored. He wants to do some tricks. I'll show you all in a little bit, maybe. He's learning to play pool. So he likes to play pool and get treats. But I know that this channel is focused towards art, so that won't be, I won't do that much of it. Hey Fernando, I tried to paint a small picture with oil paints and it was really difficult. Do I need specific brushes like hair then, or do I just need to paint really slow and steady? So slow and steady is a good way to look at it. But yes, materials can make it easier for you. I would suggest if you're gonna paint smaller, then work on a panel, a smoother surface. It will make it easier for you because the texture of the surface won't play a role in the resolve of the painting. Now when it comes to brushes for small detail things, when we get into all the little intricacies of the eyes and stuff and the nose, I like to use these brushes here. They are a little bit pricey, but they do last a long time. So you only really need 2 of them for like a month or 2 months. And it is a Silverbrush cat's tongue, size 6. Not made from cat's tongues, of course. It is a Sable brush, a pure red Sable brush. Sables are really good because they can make a nice smooth mark, like a small mark, almost like that of a marker, but they can hold a lot of paint. That's the thing. They can make a really soft, kind of like a super bristle. They can make a soft and precise mark. And Hugo's like, I want to do some tricks. He wants to do tricks. He's like, I'm bored. I want to do tricks. So yeah, I would suggest sables and a panel. And like you said, taking more time with it, it would be a good thing for you to consider. So let's check out Hugo, see if he wants to. Do you want to play some pool? Hugo. I don't think he's gonna do anything. My puppy is a little bored. Hugo. Play pool. Hugo. Hugo. Play pool. I'm glad you like the information, Fernando. So yeah, let's turn you over to this guy on his little table. As you see, he can move the pool balls. I wasn't lying to you. There you go. I have a dog that can play pool. He can move the balls into the pocket. And he knows that when the ball gets in the pocket, good boy, he gets a reward. Good boy. So whenever you want to take a break from painting, you can watch him play pool. Yeah. Good boy. Good boy. Hugo, play pool. Good boy. This is what you gotta do, folks. Don't get angry if your dog gets a little frustrated. Instead, teach them how to play pool. Good job, Hugo. Do you want to do one more so Daddy can get back to painting? Daddy's got to make a living. Hugo, play pool. Play pool. He's confused. Hugo, play pool. Good boy. Told you. Wasn't lying to you. Alright, let's get back to the painting. I know that's what you're here for. But if you're more interested in Hugo's stuff, he has his own Instagram, he has a TikTok, he has a YouTube channel, and he just wants to keep playing. Good job, Hugo. Alright, come on. Go hang out with Mama. Go hang out with Mama. He's just bored. Play with him. All right, now we're back. Back to painting. So what I was doing was adjusting the beard. I found that I think I had a little too much space there. It's always good to get up, stretch. I've been painting here for about like 45 minutes now, so it's good to take some time to get a little distance, stand back and look at your painting from a distance. I'm gonna put this little careful gradation here, make it start to look round basically. And this is part of what Fran asked earlier, how to blend. So I'm gonna have a value in between this one and this one, so I'm creating a plane change. See that? A plane change in between. But it becomes more subtle as it goes. And you can even drag it somewhat into the beard. So see how I'm going back and forth to create this edge. Take your time with your edges. See how it's this section here is starting to curve. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to read that. Fernando, they're kind of pricey, but they last a while. I haven't had to buy new Sable brushes in probably like 2 years. So they're pricey, but they're worth it. They last a long time, and if you want, you can go synthetic. I mean, you can use like acrylic brushes if you want, and it'll be fine. I mean, I used those brushes for years, but once I discovered Sables, I never really went back. Now we're starting to get that curvature that I was describing earlier. Yeah, so what I might do, everyone, given the timing, I'll probably paint an hour to an hour and a half for a painting session, and then I'll hang out for any kind of questions that you have. But please help to spread the word that I'm going to be doing these streams again, like I did in the past. I'm guessing it's not as well known anymore, but I will be doing more of these. So I'm basically asking for your help to promote this. Hey, Fernando. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like that. All those colors. Yeah, it's just three colors. That's three colors. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, if anyone just wants to say hi, like any comments will help. Because I'm just kind of pushing and pulling things at this moment. I'm going all around every time I see something, like this pupil needs to get a tad bit larger. I'll adjust it. Like I said, not a lot of stuff happens in a relatively long period of time. So it can be not the most entertaining part of a painting demonstration. And didn't use any medium or water. I constantly keep moving this hairline down. So I have a little too much showing there. Not that much, but enough to disturb it, disrupt it. Push and pull. Then eventually we'll mix up, probably with a palette knife, some large sections of skin color. Not today, of course, but later on, and we'll start to put in these planes. Yeah, good question. What paints are everyone using? Yeah, so I gotta lower it a pretty good amount. Fairly decent distance down. Got a little blue. Hey Shabu, well thank you. Thank you for the comment. You know what? Why don't we do it anyway? Um, I said we wouldn't do it today, but we've got some time until the next painting session, which is going to be on Monday. So I'm going to mix some of the skin color up with palette knife. And we're going to try the best that I can to imitate the lead white um, look. So I got to mix up pretty uh, generous quantity of color. And you see, the thing about lead white is it allows you to use more of it without raising the value, which allows you to have more control. I think so. Yeah, I'm missing you on the Zoom. I'm missing having everyone on Zoom. It's kind of strange, the silence, except for Hugo. But yeah, I'm glad that you like this. Lead white has the ability to allow you to use more of it without raising the value, which gives you more control, yada yada. But also, it allows you to paint thicker, kind of like pastier, weaving the paint in and out like this, like weaving the paint. The paint is so thickly painted like that. It'll look like it has been almost sewed into it. And yeah, of course I'm gonna say something incorrect in my grammar or whatever. I don't know. Past tense of weave is to woven, I guess. Whatever. It's like weaving the paint together. Haven't done this before, because I haven't really had the need to do it. But I'm going into it with palette knife and adding texture with palette knife, and then I'll soften it with a fine brush, which I think, I suspect, the famous Rembrandt self-portrait, that he did that. The one when you look up Rembrandt that shows up, basically his selfie, his profile image to all of history. It is, I could swear I could see some palette knife marks on the skin color. So I just did a plane change there with palette knife. So it's darker planes, very heavy paint. Kind of exactly the consistency of lead white, even though it's not lead white. I'll make this a little bit more yellowish. The more into color you get, the worse your grammar becomes. So there you go. Much thicker. And it needed to get lighter anyway, to be honest, so I don't necessarily disagree with that. And we'll see if this dries by Monday. If it doesn't, I'll be able to work into it anyway, because Cobra is dry true. So here's the thought process behind this. So lead white allows you to add more white into this without raising the value much. So in order to get that effect without lead white, you're going to have to use more of this. So you're going to have to be very precise with this, with what you do with the color. Your precision has to be much, much stronger than using lead white. Good question, Ellen. What color yellow am I using? It's called, um, let's look at it here. It is Permanent Yellow Deep. I know it doesn't show up on the camera. Permanent Yellow Deep, but again, you know, like Ellen, you have the traditional color, so you don't need to use it. But with this color palette, I'm able to get pretty much anything I want, and it's only 3 colors, and I really like it. It saves me money. It is easier for me to layer. I don't have to worry about my dog getting sick by getting into the paint. It's easier to clean, but you don't need it. I know that you have the traditional paint, Ellen, but thank you for the question. I really do appreciate it, Ellen. And that goes for everyone. Everyone that has a sink available to them for their paintbrushes. Just use traditional. You don't have to use Cobra just because I'm using it, and it won't. I made a video saying, will Cobra change everything? And will water mixable change everything? And it will for people that don't have access to an art sink like me. It will, but you don't need it. Is what I'm saying. It's not needed. It's not a prerequisite. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you like the textured look with the palette knife, Ellen. So we're getting the lead white look without the lead white. We're rebels. And here I'm gonna have to be really specific with my mixture. It's gonna be kind of a yellow ochre looking thing. Oh, perfect. That's exactly the color I wanted. I think I got lucky with that one. Yep, perfect. Exactly what I wanted. Rembrandt always puts a little bit of pink in the eyelids. Gives it more of a kind of a lack of sleep kind of struggle look. And here's the fun part. That highlight, that lead tin yellow looking highlight. Oh, believe me, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it happen. You gotta dull out your yellow, add a pretty generous amount of white to get a genuine looking lead tin yellow. And this should be it. We'll see. Yeah, I'll flatten it out so you can see it a little better. That should be my lead tin yellow. We'll see what it does. That's my lead tin yellow. Pretty much in the same direction as it was painted in the original. Those 2 little marks. We'll add a 3rd one just so we have some odd numbers. I don't need to copy it exactly as it is. Now something in between these. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to change the light sensitivity a lot, really, so you can see the texture. Now you'll be able to see the texture a little better. So I'm weaving together thick pieces of paint. This area gets more pink. So I'm weaving the paint. Let's go back to that lead tin yellow. So can you do impasto with Cobra? I think so. Just have to be really precise with your mixtures. And I'm not really that precise. I mean, I'm precise, I guess, but I'm not that precise. Was it? Not yet, at least. But this certainly brings me back to a time where I was using lead everything, almost. So in order to get a thick mixture like this with lead white, you don't need to work that hard for it, because the lead white, like I already said, you can use more of it without raising the value, thus allowing you to yada yada yada. But you can still mix it, you just use less white. See that? And it can still be that thick, crusty, creamy, lead white looking thing. I'm probably gonna have to create a close-up shot so you can see it. I can read your mind, Ingrid. I know that you want me to put a close-up. So let me see if I can figure that out real quick for you. Let's see. Okay, so should be on the second. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. All right. Hiya. All right, there you go. One more. Hiya. All right. There you go. There you go. Now you can see it. Now you can see how thickly painted that is, and getting the lead white look. The lead white. That's what I meant, like that little section right there. In order to get that effect with lead white, you don't gotta work that hard for it. It's innate in the lead white. Just mix the paint and it's gonna be that thick. But I'll tell you, you probably need to get Rublev's lead white number 2 in order to get that effect. Michael Harding's lead white, as I remember, wasn't quite that thick. I mean, stack lead white would probably be better, which is the one that's supposed to be closer to what the old masters used. But just mix up more of the paint, and you can layer it with a palette knife. You could layer it with your paintbrush if you want to. I just chose to use the palette knife because I just felt like it. But you don't even have to use the palette knife. Just load it up with your brush, and there you go. It is possible. It is not easy to get those values, but it is rewarding when you can get the texture. It reads across the room differently, different compared to any other one. And we'll put one more little shape there for the nose, and then we'll just let that be it for today. And we'll see how it dries. My guess is that it won't be completely dry by next time. But we'll be able to work into it anyway because we can. So let's get the super close up out of there now that you see what it looks like close up. So that should be about it. I will ask if there are any last minute questions, and as always, I'm gonna go get Hugo so he can say hello. Alright, I'll ask if there are any last minute questions, and I'll go get Mr. Hugo. Oh right, I was supposed to blend. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna let it be that thick. I don't think I need to go in with a soft brush. I kind of like the palette knife look. What did you do?
You just pooped.
Oh man, you need to go out.
I don't know why. I thought we took him out.
We did.
Right?
Oh. Huh? No, I'm still on here. Okay. So, looks like there are no last minute questions. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next one.